Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the book series of The Snake and the Rose, written by Abby Matthies. I am Darius again, and I will be introducing this next chapter. So if you have not seen or heard chapter 7, I would highly suggest going back and reading. And if you are all caught up, we will continue with chapter 8, Getting Close.
I started to wake up from my long night of sleep. I felt a little discombobulated as I started to shuffle around in my bed. I had a little trouble opening my eyes as they were still heavy and wanting to sleep. But when they opened, I saw my purple walls lit by my LED light strips. I turned over to my side, finding a comfy spot, and brought the blanket closer to my face. I saw my dark blue fuzzy blanket with the reflective stars bounce back the pink light that was shining in my room. Upon this realization, I took in a sharp intake of breath and shot up to a sitting position, uncovering the top of my body. I brought my arms up to my face and saw my normal tannish skin color, along with my blue flannel shirt that I was wearing last night. My legs were covered by the blanket, but I wiggled my toes and feet to see that they were of proportional size with my body. I felt the hair on the top of my head and found the soft touch of my medium-length black and red hair. There was still one thing I needed to check. I took my hands and patted my chest and private area to find everything to be normal. After double-checking everything, I breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, it was just a dream. I don't need a fucking demon. Oh, I gotta get up, I said to myself out loud. I proceeded to get out of bed and move on with my day. As I was going about my morning, I reflected upon the dream I had about that demon. I found it so bizarre that my mind drifted to that kind of an idea for a dream. This was the first dream I've ever had about a demon. Could this be something that was trying to test my faith in God? Or was it just some coincidence that my brain thought of? There was no such things as protector demons, right? All demons are bad and just want to drive you off the path of God. But what about him? What about Darius? He did seem different than the rest of them. If I remember the dream correctly, he said that he used to be human. He made some sort of deal with the devil to try and cure his son from cancer. Did that make him different right off the bat? And another thing, I have never heard about the devil making deals with humans. The only time I ever heard that sort of thing happening was in Ghost Rider. That couldn't be true, could it? I know the devil walks among men, but making deals with humans is a whole different ballgame. But the fact still remained. It was still only a dream, and I wanted it to stay that way. My morning consisted of eating breakfast, feeding my guinea pigs, doing chores to help my mother, and working on some homework for my college classes. It was around noon when I finished my homework and had free time to do whatever I wanted. While I was thinking, I came across the thought of cosplaying again. At the bare idea of that, I hesitated to advance myself into it, though. I remembered the dream once again and how I was trying to cosplay when it all happened. I also remembered that I was supposed to sleep in the cosplay room in Darius's body, and in his bed that so magically appeared from thin air. I didn't understand why this dream was affecting me so much. It was just a dream. Why was I so worried? Deciding to shake away the feeling, I stood up and headed to the cosplay room. As I opened the door, There was no bed to be seen, and the cosplay room was just how I left it. I thought about how everything that happened in that dream happened in this very room. The bare idea of all the demon stuff happening in this room made me chuckle and laugh. Who knew how such a small room could have so many problems arise in it? As I was laughing, I tied my hair in a bun to get it out of my face and proceeded to prep the room for cosplay. I turned on my lights and changed the filters to yellow and blue to brighten up my mood. Of course, I blinded myself a little because I was staring right into a light, but my vision was corrected again within a few seconds. I then made my way to the window where the curtains were open. I always left them open for the guinea pigs so that they could have natural light during the day. However, when I cosplayed, I closed them to darken the room. Once that was accomplished, it was time to find my outfit for cosplay. As I started moving around the room, I slipped on my black and white striped romper that I used for my Beetlejuice cosplay and started to fall.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
I heard a familiar voice call out. Suddenly, I stopped falling and I became confused. I had randomly stopped falling and was floating in mid-air. I looked around to find a red forest keeping me from the ground and a demon standing at the far end of the room. The expression on his face bore a shocked and scared impression as his palms were pushing out energy to keep me from falling. He slowly started raising his hands and the force began to pick me up. As my body stood upright, Darius slowly let off his power and his hands stopped glowing. And there I was once again, staring at this demon that was supposedly my protector demon. The same tall, red-skinned demon was staring down at me with his yellowish-green eyes. I stood there traumatized.
Take it easy. You gotta be careful where you walk.
He said a little hesitant. The only thing I found myself saying was, "What the hell are you still doing here?"
Well, that's a fine how do you do. Good morning to you, too.
Darius spoke, swinging the tone of his voice. I thought everything that happened was a dream. I woke up in my bed and you weren't here.
No, Abby, everything that happened yesterday was real. I was in your body and you were in mine. That wasn't a dream.
I brought my hands to my head in disbelief. There was no way this was actually happening. But yet there I was, staring at this same demon that I apparently saw yesterday. The dream I thought I had wasn't real. It was in the physical world, and I was truly involved. So you're telling me that everything that happened yesterday actually happened?
Yes, it was all true. You gaining a demon, us switching bodies, you being in the head, everything was real and
Oh my fucking god! I interrupted, freaking out some more. I started to turn away from Darius when he started to blurt out at me.
hey, Abby, just stop. Don't stress yourself over this. You need to keep yourself calm.
I couldn't believe the words that were coming out of his mouth. He was telling a 20-year-old religious woman to calm down about having to be stuck with a demon. I started to chuckle in disbelief before I truly started to flip my lid. Are you seriously telling me to calm down and not stress myself even though I am seriously talking to a demon that I can only see? Darius gave me a concerned look as I continued muttering to myself.
Hey, what did I just say? Stop. Stop.
Darius then proceeded to snap his fingers at me to get my attention, and sadly enough it worked. I oriented myself to face him again.
Just look at me.
He uttered with a soft voice. I lifted my head to him to look at his face and saw it displayed a serious but pleasant expression upon it. He didn't touch me so that we didn't have the switching fiasco happen, but he at least gazed at me with his eyes. His eyes were still off-putting to me, but they looked better because of his softer expression.
Breathe in.
He said and gestured for me to breathe in with him. I did so, following his instructions.
Now breathe out.
He told me after a few seconds, and we simultaneously let out the breath that we just took.
Good. Thank you.
I felt better taking the deep breath, but I was still anxious and confused about why this was all happening. I laid my face in my hands to try and keep myself from flipping out again. As I was doing so, Darius started to speak again.
I understand this is a lot to process, and I am sorry this is all coming at you so fast. However, while all this is happening, we need to make sure we keep our calm and do what we can to figure things out. I will do my best to try and explain things to the best of my ability. I only know so much, but I am willing to answer any questions you may have, okay?
I gave him a slight nod to show that I understood. I didn't want to believe that this was happening, but I really didn't have a choice. We were both stuck, and I wanted to know why.
What do you want to know?
He asked, keeping the same soft tone. I want to know how you became a demon, seeming how you keep claiming you were a human before this. I said forcefully to drive the question into his head. Upon my response, his eyes widened a little, but then closed in sadness. He took in a breath and brought his right arm up to grab the right side of his shirt near the collar. He pulled the shirt back slightly to reveal a pentagram symbol burnt into the top of his pectoral. I looked at it in shock and looked back at him. He gazed into my eyes and spoke again.
Okay, I'll tell you. But you might want to sit down first.
I did as he suggested and grabbed the folding chair I stored in between my desk and storage bin for my cosplay clothing. As I sat down in the chair, Darius sat himself on the floor to bring himself more to my level. He leaned up against my dresser as a back support with his left leg bent upward. He took in one more deep breath and gave me a warning.
As I'm telling this story, I want you to keep in mind that what I did was all supposed to be for my son.
I nodded my head in agreement, understanding that I needed to keep an open mind despite the fact that he was a demon. If his story was true, I had no right to judge him. He then began his story as follows.
I was alive and had a wife named Nala and a little boy named Damien. He was the cutest little boy that you could ever lay your eyes on. My wife was as beautiful as the sun, with her strands of golden hair and amazing smile that could cure your sadness in a heartbeat. I loved them both very, very much, and I still do. I was the type of person that would do anything for my family. They meant too much to me, and I hated the bare idea of them being in pain or sorrow. But moving forward, when Damien was 7, Nala and I took him for his yearly checkup to the doctor, and they discovered that something was wrong within his chest. We went and did further testing, and we found out that he had a lump. Unfortunately, that lump signified Damien having a cancerous tumor. There were no physical signs of the mass forming or anything. I even looked at the x-rays myself, and seen the results were true. Nala and I were devastated. Our little boy had cancer and we didn't know how to fix it, or even how to deal with it. However, because I was a doctor myself, I took on my son's case and researched day and night the best ways to get rid of it and cure my son. I started working later nights at the hospital so I could utilize my resources and spend more time trying to treat him. I was just so obsessed with this problem that I was willing to do anything to fix it. One night, I was working late at the hospital, and a random man emerged from the shadows of the barely lit doorway. It's kind of hard to describe what he looks like now because it was so long ago, but he was a little taller than me. He walked in the room and saw my obsession clear as day. He gestured to the x-rays, talking about my son's cancer, and talked like a doctor would. Eventually, he told me he had an offer that I couldn't refuse. Upon further examination, he told me that he was able to cure my son for a small price. He proceeded to show me some sort of contract. He kept talking about how much of a life my son would have if I was just to make a deal with him. He was going to be able to live his life fully and not have it stop short. And after a few minutes of persuasion, I was a complete fool and signed the contract. And after that, everything changed. That man turned out to be Satan and changed me into a demon, which prohibited me from ever seeing my wife and child again. And I was officially owned by the devil.
Upon the ending of his rant, he fully showed me the pentagram brand mark that he had. I sat in my chair, speechless. Darius used to be a living being, a living human, but got himself changed because of signing a deal that he didn't even know was from the devil. He had good intentions and wanted to cure his son. I can't say I wouldn't want the same for my children if I had them. As I was reflecting, Darius began to talk again.
And ever since that day, I have been stuck making deals with other humans for him and doing his dirty bidding. So to magically and randomly be thrown to a random kid is a huge shock for me too.
We both stared at each other as the silence filled the room. I couldn't even fathom the amount of torture this man has gone through. He was a pure soul taken by Satan because of a tragic event involving his kid. He was vulnerable, and Satan knew that. He came in at Darius's weakest moment and tempted him to sign a contract that he didn't even fully understand. But it was supposed to have a positive outcome from it if he agreed to it. That just proves my point about Satan always trying to ruin people's lives. I am so sorry about what happened to you. I can't even imagine the pain you went through all this time. Thank you for sharing your story, I assured him, breaking the silence between us. I wanted him to at least feel acknowledged and that I did have sympathy for him. He nodded his head and started to stand up on his feet. I followed suit and stood up with him, putting my chair back to give us more room. Also, I am sorry for the burn mark on your chest. I can't even imagine living with that every single day, I added, proving to him that I paid attention. He let out a sigh and turned himself around so that he could button his shirt. As he did so, I spotted a tattoo on the back of his neck. I squinted my eyes a little to see the tattoo clearer and noticed that it was a snake that coiled itself around a rose. I quickly pointed it out to Darius and asked about it while he was still turned around. "What's with the tattoo on the back of your neck?" He turned himself around and was visibly confused about the question.
Tattoo? I don't have any tattoos on me. I only have the brand mark from when I turned into a demon.
I am not crazy. There is a tattoo on the back of your neck. It's a snake coiled around the stem of a rose. Darius began to flutter his eyes and brought his hand to his neck. I seen his expression change from confused to shock within a matter of seconds. I heard him mutter something along the lines of, "What the fuck?" and I knew something was wrong. What? What is it?"
I don't know.
he replied back. "So you're telling me that you didn't know about that tattoo?"
No, I didn't have it before. It must have appeared there when I switched to being a protector demon.
"So to recap, you're telling me this tattoo randomly appeared on the back of your neck when you supposedly became my protector demon?" Darius started becoming flustered at my constant questioning, that he put his hand to his face for a moment, trying to compose himself.
Abby, I don't know.
Instead of asking Darius another question, I decided to explain why I was asking so many of them. "I'm sorry I'm asking so many questions. I'm just trying to understand everything." Darius began to try and fix the collar of his shirt, as it was wrinkly and a little popped out in the back. As he struggled for a couple seconds, he looked at me sincerely and asked,
Can you do me a favor and fix the collar of my shirt, please? I don't want you to touch me, but at least fix the collar on my shirt, seeming how I can't fix it properly.
I agreed to do so to try and help him out. I could see that visual appearance really mattered to him for some reason, and I wanted to get off the depressing topic that we were stuck on. He thanked me and turned himself around again while standing in the middle of the room. I stood upon my tippy toes to reach his collar and got a closer look at his tattoo. In my eyes, I thought it looked very pretty and unique. I haven't seen a tattoo like this before, so I thought it was pretty cool. I noted it to Darius how I felt about it while fixing his collar when a random shiver crawled up my spine and made me jolt. My hands that were fixing his collar ended up sliding upward and hitting Darius in the back of the neck.
Ugh! Abby, I told you not.
Darius exclaimed, realizing what was about to happen. "Oh, shit! Darius, I'm sorry!" As I was saying that, we both moved to the opposite sides of the room, separating ourselves. Darius began to touch the back of his neck as he looked at me.
Why in the world did you touch me?
"Darius, I didn't mean to. I had a shiver crawl up my back and it made me jolt. I'm sorry." As we both stood in our places, waiting for the faintness to happen, Darius suddenly jolted forward, as if someone was pulling him. He quickly grabbed the edge of my dresser to steady himself and appeared at me in utter shock. "What are you doing?" I asked after his little episode.
That was not me.
He replied. "What do you mean that wasn't?" And that sudden jolt that happened to Darius started happening to me. I felt a strong force that tried to pull me forward to him. I placed my hand on my chest, displaying the same amount of confusion that Darius had. Then the jolt happened again to Darius, and then to me. "Darius? What is happening?" I asked, trying to hold back the terror in my voice. I kept feeling the consistent force trying to pull me towards Darius as I was resisting it by hanging onto my desk. Darius was gripping as tight as he could to the dresser. The pull that was happening kept getting stronger by the second. Darius finally answered back and said,
I don't know.
The next thing we knew, Darius and I lost our grips and were pulled together by the random force that was driving us together. I saw a flash of white as me and Darius clashed together. I could feel a weird sensation throughout my body as if it was absorbing something. The feeling became too much for me to handle, and I lost control of my legs as they collapsed to the floor. As I landed, the overwhelming sensation went away, and I found myself on my hands and knees with my forehead to the ground. I lifted myself up and propped myself onto my hands. I felt as though when I did that, I was using more of my right arm to push myself up rather than my left. I tried to compose myself and think, but my head felt like it was spinning in a downward spiral. I decided that I was gonna try and stand up. Upon doing so, I was able to lift my right arm. My left arm stayed still, like it was glued to the spot. No matter how hard I tried to pull it up, it wouldn't seem to budge. Why in the hell can I... Wait, I said aloud, trying to comprehend what the fuck just happened. As I was thinking back, I remembered that I had a demon standing in front of me before, and now he wasn't. Confused as hell, I attempted to call out to Darius. Darius? Suddenly I felt like I was getting sucked back into myself and lost control of my face. I was stuck only listening to my body groaning like it was just hit in the face, when suddenly I heard Darius's voice come out of my mouth.
Abby,
He said, sounding just as confused as I was. I felt something pull me back out and put me in control of my face again, as it jolted me slightly. I looked at myself as I was on the floor, still wondering what the hell was going on. What? I finally said. This wasn't the switch problem that we were having. This was an entire new problem, and what seemed to be a dream before flipped on me and turned into a horrible nightmare. Darius, what the hell is this? I asked, referring to the current situation of me being stuck on the floor. I felt that same feeling of being pulled back and lost control of my face again as Darius somehow came through to talk.
that's a very good question, Abby. What is this?
He said with confusion in his voice. I began to gain control of my face again, and I realized that the feeling was just going to keep happening as me and Darius were talking like this. Well, don't ask me. I haven't the slightest clue. You would know more than me. I began to stutter for a little bit as I was trying to find my next few words to say. Finally, some of them formed so I could say, Why are you in my body when I am still here?
That's a very good question. Again, I don't know.
Then my left arm started to move while the hand was opening and closing.
And how come I can only move the left side of the body? You try moving the right side.
Darius added. I began to try with my right arm, and it somehow worked. And when I tried moving the left side, it was sadly unsuccessful. Well, that's me, but I can't seem to gain control of my left arm. I started to clench and unclench my hand while Darius brought up the arm that he had control of. He started following the same pattern to sync the two hand rhythms together. Darius gained control of the face again and spoke.
Now, I don't know what exactly this is, but if we want this body to function, we are going to have to work together, I think.
He stated, placing his hand down on the ground again. I followed him in suit so that my body was in a natural position.
On the count of 3, start standing up.
He added. Wait, you want to try and stand up? We don't even know if we're going to be able to, I said, trying to keep myself calm.
Well, do you want to stay on the ground? 'Cause I bet you don't. At least if we stand, we know what each of us can control.
Okay, fine. You lift your leg first, then if we're going to try and stand, I said, agreeing. I really didn't have any other choice.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
And he lifted his leg in a kneeling position. I did the same after I knew he was steady, and we lifted the body up to stand. At first, I didn't have very good balance. I was thrown off by only having control of the one half of the body. But after a few seconds, I steadied myself, and the body was standing up like everything was fine.
Okay, we're standing. That's good.
Darius stated. How could he possibly see this as a good thing? How can a demon and a human collide with each other, especially if they are in a human body? My brain kept sending me signals that this was morally and ethically wrong, and I wanted to do everything in my power to make it right. Darius, this isn't good. I can only control my right side.
I understand that. But I don't even know what is going on or what happened.
He said, trying to hold back the aggressive tone in his voice. But why is this happening? Why are we together in the body?
Those are great questions. Let me think on that.
He sarcastically said and continued on.
How about it was because you touched me?
But this didn't happen beforehand. When we touched, we switched bodies. We didn't combine into one. Suddenly, my arm spasmed and flung itself forward without me doing so, and jolted the body forward. Darius then grabbed my arm and brought it back to my chest to stabilize the body from falling.
What the hell are you doing?
He asked, aggressively. That wasn't me! I didn't have control of my arm! Why would that even be a thing?
I don't know. Just stop.
He finally said, trying to find his words.
I think the arm did that because we are a whole ball of emotions. Because you are getting worked up, you're starting to lose control of your part of the body. If that is the case, we need to calm down and figure out a plan.
I honestly didn't know why Darius's go-to phrase was calm down. Those were two words that I always had a hard time with. Whenever I got worked up about something, it would take me hours just to try and forget about it. Now that this was happening all at once, there was no way I was gonna calm down anytime soon. Well, you better think of something quickly, I said with an annoyed, swinging tone.
Unless you have any ideas that you would like to kindly share with me, just shut up. I don't know how to fix this, and it isn't going to be quick. I have no clue what the fuck I am doing, and I don't even know where to start. I don't know how to get out of this.
After Darius had finished talking, we heard a thud from across the room. We quickly turned to it to find another demon standing in the room. He was a little taller than Darius and was way more muscular than him. Along with that, he wore a navy blue and black shirt that was way too tight and showed his muscular body, along with dark blue pants and black shoes. He had black horns with copper tints in the creases of it, along with his rusty skin tone. A memory quickly flashed in my head. It was of yesterday afternoon, when Darius put me in the head. At the flash of that memory, I recognized him as being Satan himself. At remembrance of that, I freaked out. "Oh my God!" And Darius quickly swung his hand to cover my mouth for the rest of the freakout. I was forcefully pushed out of control, and Darius took over, still covering the mouth. "God damn it! You didn't need to switch so forcefully," I said, talking to myself in the head.
Well, I'm sorry that Satan just appeared and I don't need you freaking out. That's only going to feed his ego.
Darius said, also in the head. Wait, you can hear me?
Yes, I can. This isn't important right now. I kind of have a bigger problem on my hands,
he said, frustrated. I decided to listen to Darius and not talk about it anymore. There really was bigger problems occurring. Satan was literally in my room, and I could see him. I never saw him before, so why the hell could I see him now? Was it because Darius was with me? Was it really that easy to obtain the ability to see the devil? And furthermore, I couldn't help but think about if I was one of the problems in Darius's eyes.
Well, that was quite a reaction. Did I scare you?
Satan said sarcastically. Darius brought his hand down slowly. I'm assuming to make sure he had control over the face.
No, it wasn't me,
Darius finally said after a few seconds.
Then who was it, Darius? The Easter Bunny?
Satan spoke, laughing his echoey laugh afterwards. I was getting enraged by his laugh. He was mocking us like we were stupid. As I heard him, my anger grew more and more by the second. So mad, in fact, I decided to blurt out. "No, he just wanted to yell at you for no fucking reason." His chuckling stopped immediately after I spoke. He looked down at my face in confusion and shock expressed clearly on his face. He bent down a little as if to get a better look at me. I tried to step back, but was stopped by Darius's half.
Don't step back. If you do, you're going to feed his ego. Don't show that you're scared,
Darius said in the head so Satan couldn't hear. I did as he suggested and moved back up a bit. I was now staring into his eyes and seeing that they were a mixture of yellow and orange. Satan finished his bend and started to speak again.
Excuse me? What did you just say?
"Shit's gone wrong!" I said, trying to sound angry to hide my scaredness. Darius pulled me back once more to control the face again, and I began to listen intently.
Abby? Shut it.
Darius said first, before turning back to Satan.
Well. Look what the protector demon dragged in. But I have to say, this is quite a shock.
Satan said sarcastically at first, but changed to a surprised tone as he spoke.
This is a surprise for you?
Darius replied back questionably.
Yes, it is. I wasn't expecting to come up here to see this.
He continued, gesturing to us.
It normally takes demons years to do what you two have just done.
What we've done? What the hell did we do? But whatever it is, Satan seemed just as confused about it as we were.
Wait, what?
Darius asked, flabbergasted.
It normally takes up to a human lifetime for demons to learn and gain the ability to do this.
A human lifetime? Wait, does that mean I was stuck with this demon forever? Was I just cursed to live a life full of demons and chaos? Did I somehow fall from grace and now was hellbound? I need to know these things, so I quickly took control of the face while Darius was caught off guard. Are you telling me that this thing is with me forever? I exclaimed, demanding for an answer. However, before I could get a reply, Darius pushed me off control and started to speak again.
Abby, don't get tangled up in this. Just stay quiet, please.
Upon that response, Satan added in his own thoughts.
Oh, now look who's committing to their role as a protector demon.
Darius gave him an angry glare as he began to speak.
Yes, I am. Because I don't want her making the same mistake I did fucking around with you.
Now that I knew Darius's backstory, I knew what he meant by mistake. I was sure that he regretted his decision ever since he signed that contract. I can't even imagine the pain and suffering this man has gone through.
Well, it was your precious mistake that led to me owning you.
As the sentence slid out of Satan's mouth, he was starting to guide his hand towards my arm that Darius was in control of. Darius reacted quickly to it and swung his side back to distance himself and left me clueless on if I was supposed to move or not.
Don't touch me. And don't touch this body.
Satan began to laugh his echoey laugh as he found that sentence funny. Darius still stared at him with angry eyes while in disgust. As I began to examine the situation, I could feel Darius's anger. I don't know if he knew I could feel it, but now was not the time to mention it. I could feel it strongly in the pit of my chest. So strong, in fact, that I would have been yelling and screaming if it was all mine. But yet, Darius was astute. He didn't express his anger like I would have. He just stood there glaring at him, either waiting for him to speak or figuring out what to say. After Satan was done laughing, Darius broke the uncomfortableness.
What is this? What happened between me and her? I don't know how you two managed it, but you became what is called half and half. It's when the human and the demon are together within the human body. She controls one side of the body and you control the other side. Think of it as if you two are fused with each other within the human body.
Fused in the human body? How was that even possible? How could a human and a demon become one with each other? We were total opposites. And if it took demons a human lifetime to do this, how did Darius do it so quickly?
But it still came through the power of the touch. Shouldn't we have switched bodies?
Darius asked, interrupting my thought process.
That is only one form of switching. There are plenty of other ways for the switching process to happen. Hold the fuck on,
Darius announced, shouting at the monstrous figure standing in front of us.
What do you mean there are other forms of switching?
Satan glared down upon us with his aggressive eyes. I could visibly see that he was getting annoyed and agitated the more Darius interrupted him. His eyes were wide, which exposed every inch of his iris. I could see the blaze orange as it mixed with the bright yellow, while his pupil was long and narrow like a cat eye. As he stared, I started to feel a burning sensation throughout my body, almost like I was being set on fire just from a gaze. While that thought was stirring in my head, Darius intruded with his own thoughts.
I know, it burns. I feel it too, and I have felt it for the past 13 years. I'm sorry. It'll be over soon.
Satan then began to lighten his gaze and speak.
Yes, switching can come in various forms. It can be switching of the bodies, switching of the mind, or even switching to fuse like this. However, when this happens, your eyes change to a dark red.
I felt Darius express a surprised look on my face. I could tell that he was just as shocked about that as I was. Why would my eyes change color again? I loved my brown eyes. I didn't want to look like an outcast or a weirdo. I would have been the easiest target to spot if I suddenly had red eyes.
Wait, they're red?
Darius asked in disbelief.
Yes, a deep, cracked red. Take a look.
And Satan handed Darius a small blue hand mirror. Darius lifted the mirror to our eyes, and we both stared upon them with incredulity. As I looked, I could see that they were a dark red, like he said, almost like the color of Darius's shirt, but a shade darker. I could see black cracks that scattered throughout the iris of the eye. I also noted that the pupil was shaped like Satan's as well. That same black cat eye that was long and narrow. Darius brought the mirror down and handed it back to him.
Those eyes are supposed to symbolize you both.
Are you telling me my eye color changed again? It already changed once because of Darius being in my body. Why did it change again? I blurted out, taking control of my face once more. I had to know. This was unbelievable. How the hell was I supposed to get answers if I had to sit back and let someone else try and think for me? I wasn't going to let that happen. I was independent, even though this was Satan himself, and he scared the shit out of me. By the power of God, I was determined to get some answers.
Little girl, this isn't any of your concern. So how about you just stand there, be a good human, and shut up?
I'm gonna look like a freak! Why did you do this to me? And within a blink of an eye, I was forced to be the passenger of my own body again. Darius called my name and stuck up his hand towards my side of the body.
If you try speaking again, I will fucking cover your mouth.
Darius continued to talk to me in the head.
I understand that you're upset about what's going on, and I am just as upset. But this is not the guy to fuck with. I promise you, when I say this, he can change your life within a snap of his fingers. So please, just keep your thoughts to yourself.
Keeping quiet wasn't my thing. When I felt something was wrong, I made sure it was known. But I knew what Darius said was right. He has more power than anyone could imagine. Also, after hearing about what happened to the demon paired with me, I knew that Satan was not the one to fuck with. So for now, I decided to do what he said.
Darius, keep your stupid protector child in line. And another thing, the human world can't see your demon red eyes. They work just like yours. Yes, I figured that much. As you can see, she doesn't deal with this stuff very well yet. It's only the second day of us being together, and I don't even have all of it figured out. Speaking of figuring out, did you find out what powers you have? The only ones I have found out were the memories flowing into my head, and I somehow caught her from falling.
He failed to mention the communication thing within our heads, but I figured he didn't want to tell him that.
Those are just some of the basic powers. You'll find out more.
I could once more feel the anger rising from Darius again. He didn't say anything for a minute to make sure he would bite his tongue. I couldn't believe how Darius held his anger in. At that remark, I would have snapped back. But I guess it wasn't about me. So he can handle it however he wanted. He finally composed himself and spoke again.
What other powers do I have? I'm not telling you. You will figure them out on your own.
Now at this point, my mind got the best of me. It thought about the random powers that Darius was going to find out about spontaneously. What if it was a fire power that could burn me? Or a manipulation power that could really screw with me? And upon those thoughts, I took control one final time. Can you just stop being a dick and tell us what? And Darius quickly covered my mouth, like he said he was gonna. Satan's expression turned from amused to sour and angry within an instant.
How dare you speak to me in that tone? Do you know who I am, or do I need to show you?
As he was talking, he raised his arm and formed a fist with his hand. Terror started to rise as I was realizing what I had done. I tried speaking again, but Darius still had my mouth covered, so all Satan could hear were muffled whines. Just as he was in mid-punch, Darius swiped his arm up and took control of my face. I flinched, waiting for the impact, but I didn't feel it. The only thing that happened was a loud thud rang in my ears. I looked through the eyes again to see what happened, and I saw that another one of Darius's powers kicked in randomly. I saw a red force field surrounding my body. Satan's face continued to express anger as his fist hit the force field.
Stop!
Darius yelled.
You are not helping in this situation. If I am supposed to be protecting her, then I'm protecting her from you too. Stop!
Upon those remarks, Satan brought his fist down and composed himself while Darius discharged the force field. Did he know he could do that? Was he just trying to block the hit with his arm and it just happened? I was so stumped. I just had to ask. Darius, how did you do that? I asked him in the head.
I don't know. But I wasn't just gonna stand here and get hit by Satan, especially if you're the one who caused him to react that way.
That response stung me a little. He tells me he doesn't want me tangled up in this, and the next he says he was protecting himself. So much for having a protector demon.
If I ever meet your child again, you better have her under control.
Satan said with emphasis on the word better.
If you want her under control, then how about you tell us how to get out of this fucking mess? She would mellow out if she wasn't like this with me.
Darius added to his reply. Satan gave an evil smirk and stared at us. Upon that look, a shiver came up my spine and shook my body. I couldn't help it. He just looked so evil that he frightened me. I wanted this all to be over, and it was, after Satan spoke one final sentence.
I'm not saying shit. I'm done with you two. Have fun trying to figure it out.
And he faded away into nothingness. Darius tried to reach and grab him before he could leave, but unfortunately failed to do so.
Fucking asshole! Get back here!
Darius called, but received no response. This was just great. I was stuck with a demon that didn't really care about me and didn't know how to do anything when it came to being a protector demon. I started worrying and decided to speak aloud. Well, now what do we do? I knew Darius became frustrated as he took his hand and rubbed his side of the face. He then proceeded to talk to himself in the head, forgetting that I could hear as he said,
This is gonna be a long fucking ride.
Darius, how do we get out of this? How do we get out of this half and half that he calls this? I asked again, disregarding his comment that was true.
That's a great question, Abby. But let me ask you something. Did we find out any information on how to separate from each other from the talk we just had with Satan?
No.
So do you think I know how to solve this problem? No. The only true thing I can think of is touching, but...
Darius then proceeded to grab my arm and hold it. He held my arm limb in front of me and continued to speak.
Touching isn't going to work.
Well, I would suggest going to sleep, seeming how we somehow switched bodies doing that. However, I just woke up, so check that off the list. I said, trying to pitch in. So what else is going to work?
Abby, I don't know. How many times do I have to fucking say this shit to you? I don't know.
Well, don't fucking become snarky at me. I can't help that we are fused together. I don't want to be in this just as much as you do. Darius stayed quiet for a little bit after that. While there was silence filling the air, I continued to think on what we could do to unfuse. We didn't know what powers Darius had. Maybe one of them was switching through a different method. But I also didn't want some firepower coming in and burning me while trying to switch back. We couldn't really pull away from each other, so that was off the list too. I just couldn't think of any true possible solutions. My thoughts started to get to the best of me as I started to feel helpless. How was I supposed to live with a demon like this? Unknowing on what is happening and only having control of one side of my body. I began to tear up a little and say, I can't think of any other way to switch. I wish I could, but I can't. I wish this wasn't happening. I wish we were not in this situation. Darius took control of the face and spoke to me again.
I know. I wish the same thing. But sadly, this isn't going to work on a wish.
We stood there in silence for a couple seconds, when suddenly we felt that same faintness that came with switching. And I smiled grimly at the thought of getting my body back. Then, the smile faded as we fell onto the carpeted floor.
This has been Chapter 8, Getting Close, from The Snake and the Rose. Tune into the next video for Chapter 9. Thank you for listening.